If you elect me president, we will have a president that believes America is the greatest country in the world, and we will have a president that acts like it.
We're back from Las Vegas, site of the last Republican presidential debate of the year. Again and again tonight, Senators Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz clashed over starkly different worldviews. Senator Rubio accused Senator Cruz of talking tough on ISIS, but not backing it up with action. Here we go.
He has also supported, by the way, a budget that is called the containment budget. And it is a budget that would radically reduce the amount of money we spend on our military. You can't carpet bomb ISIS if you don't have planes and bombs to attack them with.
ISIS and radical Islamic terrorism will face no more determined foe than I will be. We will utterly destroy them by targeting the bad guys. And one of the problems with Marco's foreign policy is he has far too often supported Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, undermining governments in the Middle East that have helped radical Islamic terrorists. We need to focus on killing the bad guys, not getting stuck in Middle Eastern civil wars.
Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's strategy is to lead from behind. It sounds like what he's outlining is not to lead at all. We cannot continue to outsource foreign policy. We must lead. We are the most powerful nation in the world. We need to begin to act like it again.
Wow. Rand Paul judges now. Senator, thank you. You know, when you get in these debates with Rubio, it must be easy. Just talk to a neocon. He's just a neocon. He wants to knock off every Middle Eastern government. He wants to, the ones we knocked off like Iraq and Libya, go back and do it more with Syria now and knock off a few more.
But you know, the interesting thing is I thought we really had a substantive debate over regime change. And this is something that
your father would have liked this.
This is something
didn't happen back then.
Well, this is something that actually unites Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton because they both believe in regime change. They both supported the regime change in Libya. They've supported it in Syria. But I've been arguing the opposite, that we're actually less safe when we topple these regimes. If we were to topple Assad in 2013, when Hillary Clinton wanted to, President Obama wanted to, Marco Rubio, John McCain, all the neocons wanted to, ISIS would be in charge of all of Syria now. So it's a wonderful debate to have because maybe we're going to finally learn from history. The history of the Middle East is regime change hasn't helped us to become more safe.
What I can't understand is if you really care, some neocons say they're very pro. Are we ready to go? We're getting ready. Let's go. Casey Hunnit's got Donald Trump to success. We'll be right back to you.
Casey, take over. Than you've accused him of being?
No, it's not that. He has to go out and he has to do his thing. I mean, look, he's at 3 and I'm at poll just came out at 42. So I think I do the exact same thing as him. I thought it was a little unfair that CNN was leading him along like that. You know, that last question where they just let him along, Mr. Trump said. But, you know, I've really enjoyed this evening. I think Jeb tried very hard. He's having a hard time, let's face it.
Senator Cruz didn't follow through with any attacks on you tonight, and you seem to back off some of your earlier criticism. Are you
I get along great with him. I mean, he's been backing me all along. He's been really the one person that's backed me with virtually everything. And we have a very good relationship, and I was very happy to see that he backed off his statement that he made, you know, in the closed doors. I respect him for it. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a good guy.
You did call him a maniac. You're not going to do that again?
Yeah, but you know what? Time goes by.
There you go, Chris. Mr. Trump again for you. Not actually repeating his criticism of Ted Cruz as a maniac, as you saw Cruz not willing to go after Trump in tonight's debate, even though we anticipated that clash. So we're going to have to wait and see if there's going to be more to this storyline, if we are going to hear more about whether Cruz has criticized Trump more aggressively in public, as some people are privately saying has happened.
Thanks, Casey Hunt, who was with Donald Trump, of course. What do you make of this kind of politics where Cruz makes snide comments about Trump in a fundraising group and then shows up and says, I'm not going to repeat that in public? What's that about?
I think the most important exchange with Donald Trump tonight was when I made sure that voters knew that in order to close the internet, you would have to get rid of something, this little troublesome thing called the First Amendment to the Constitution. And so people need to realize how outlandish the things that he is saying, what they would amount to. When he says, oh, we're going to kill the families of terrorists, he's talking about just, I don't know, their 4-year-old kids or something. That would go against the Geneva Convention and against really most American sensibilities to kill women and children. And people need to understand that. Donald Trump's what he's proposing.
Why do you think 3 out of 5 Republicans say they like his proposal for at least a temporary ban on Muslims coming into this country?
I don't think
your party likes that idea.
I don't think that they've yet heard everything he has to say or considered the implications of it. That's why I brought it up again. He said, I just might want to close that internet thing. But to do that, you'd realize that it would contravene the First Amendment. You would have to say no more speech on the internet. And I think that people have to realize that his propositions are even more
Do you
outlandish
think they
than you
take
can
them
imagine.
literally like the Old Testament? Do you actually believe they take them literally, what he says?
Well,
or do they like his address? He's saying, I'm going to do something about immigration. So I'll say I'll build the wall, but I'm really going to do is get serious about enforcing the law.
I think there's a possibility people aren't really listening, but I think as the election gets closer,
No,
my
I mean
hope is that
listening, but
people,
saying, come on, I get his point, but I know he's not going to go that far. You don't think they do that?
But I think that's a big part of the debate now. His opponents, myself, we need to explain to people that what he's talking about is outlandish. Getting rid of the First Amendment of the Constitution, a pretty big deal.
We had Governor Huckabee here a moment ago, and former Governor Huckabee said that one of the requirements is to be reciprocal and to back him if he's the nominee. Would you back me with the nominee? He says he will run as a Republican. He will not run third party. Does that mean you guys should support him if he wins?
I think that
Would you support him if he wins?
I've pledged to support the nominee. I'm a Republican, and I've pledged to support the nominee. But I can tell you that it won't be with a great deal of enthusiasm. So I can tell you that I'm very concerned that he would be the nominee. I think he would be wiped out on a landslide. I don't want him to be the nominee. I will do everything in my power to try to keep him from being the nominee by pointing out the things that he's for really aren't what it was good for America.
Howard Fineman's on the line. Howard, give a question to Senator Rand Paul.
Well, Senator Paul, I wanted to know
you have to relay to me. I don't have a
where you go next in trying to make that case, and is the biggest imperative in this race to explain Donald Trump to the American people in the way you think it's urgent that he be explained, and how does that take place, and is that the number one priority for everybody else in the race?
Great question. Howard's got a great question. How do you interpret and get people to think about what Trump's, the implications, the consequences of what sounds right from Trump?
I think by putting them out there, and you have to characterize them, recharacterize them, and make people think, because they might at first think, well, yeah, we don't want terrorists on the internet, but what is the implication of that? Shutting down the internet, the implication of that is we will no longer allow speech on the internet, because you can't shut down certain parts of speech. And part of the First Amendment, frankly, for those of us who live in the country, is that sometimes we will have objectionable things that we have to hear.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you for coming over. Let's go down to Casey again, as this time has snagged or got a hold of Dr. Ben Carson.
I think, first of all, we have to do a much better
Chris, nice to see you. We're standing here with Dr. Ben Carson, who's currently talking about his potential trip to Israel. Let's take a listen.
And we need not only to monitor it, but we need to put out alternative messages, and we need to use cyber warfare. We need to be working with their servers and taking those down if they will not cooperate. We also need to be working with the imams and with the clerics and with the moderate Muslims. They need to understand that they need to be working with us to help identify radicals and radicalized elements. Because if they can't identify them, how are we supposed to identify them? And if we can't identify them, that's going to affect our policies. So it will work out, much better if they will join our efforts than if they sit on the sidelines and do nothing.
Dr. Carson, can I just jump in for a second? We're live here with Chris Matthews. I just want to ask you, you worked hard to tie your biography into your potential national security experience tonight. Do you feel like you succeeded? You've fallen quite far here in the polls as the race has turned towards terrorism.
I don't know that I spent a lot of tying my biography into what I was talking about tonight, so I'm not sure the premise of the question is correct. But I am very pleased with what happened tonight, because there's a false narrative out there that he can't possibly know anything about foreign policy, and I think I demonstrated that I do, and I could demonstrate to a much greater degree also.
You talked a little bit about how you don't think that people have to be rude to be heard in this presidential race. Do you think that Donald Trump is being rude? Do you think that he's somebody that, say, Iowa voters who often, we would say they might be Iowa nice, will go for?
Well, you've probably noticed that I don't spend a lot of time talking about other people. I'm not going to start now.
All right, thank you for your time, Dr. Carson. We appreciate it.
What are your plans?
Chris, back to you.
Thank you, Casey. I've got Governor John Kasich. Tonight's debate was along a number of lines. One of them was we need people with experience in executive decision-making. You, Governor Christie, I'm not sure who else has executive experience. I guess Trump in his own business world as a billionaire. But then you look at the fight, it seems to be right now between two freshman senators saying that they're better at Trump, and they don't have any more experience than he has. I mean, it really is kind of an interesting battle. These two guys right behind him in the polls,
Remember, though,
Cruz and
Chris,
Rubio, don't have any experience in executive government.
look, the polls.
Where's your party at when
Let
it
me
comes
tell
to
you,
executive
you know what?
ability?
In like 53 or 54 days, you're going to see New Hampshire, and then we're going to know. We're going to see Iowa before that, but then we're going to see New Hampshire, and we're going to see who emerges. I was really happy with what happened tonight. I was given time. I was able to talk in depth about ISIS, in depth about what we need to do with Assad. I was able to talk about encryption, able to talk even a little bit about the economy, and I was very pleased with tonight.
Did you like the fact there was a real debate between 4 candidates against 5 on the issue of war policy? A real break?
Yeah,
Those who believe in regime change and those who don't?
Yeah, but Chris, you know, these things are complicated.
Pretty stark tonight.
Well, but
you were on the side with Christie and with George W. Bush.
But wait a minute. I'm for regime change in Syria.
Yeah.
But I never would have been for regime change in Iraq if Saddam did not have weapons of mass destruction. No.
But you were for it at the time.
Well, because I thought he had weapons of mass destruction. Look, I had a seminal vote.
So you're for knocking off governments that have weapons of mass destruction?
No.
For any government that has weapons of mass destruction?
In that case where we thought he was a threat to us. But let me go back. I thought he was going to be a threat to us. So, you know,
how was Iraq going to attack the United States?
So did the whole world with Saddam.
I didn't, and a lot of people did.
Proliferation.
Who thought Iraq was going to attack the United States? It never had.
Chris, when he had weapons of mass destruction, even Colin Powell, who's one of the most respected national security generals ever.
He saluted his boss.
Okay, look. I have a history of this. We went to war in Lebanon.
And by the way, one of his great regrets is that Colin Powell did what he did.
Well, if we hadn't known there were weapons of mass destruction, there's no way I would have thought we should go. So I had a vote in Lebanon. And President Reagan wanted to have the troops in Lebanon.
Right.
And I was one of 14 Republicans to say no. And your old boss supported it at the time. I didn't support it. I don't believe we should get in the middle of civil wars. In Syria, I don't think our troops should be there to remove Assad. That's why we should support these people who want to remove him. Why do I want to remove him? Iran, Russia, Assad.
Okay.
No, that's sophisticated.
No, I just think it's more. I think it's neocon.
No, look, I don't think it is.
It's adventurism. It's us getting involved in areas we don't belong in. But what did we gain out of knocking down Iraq? What did we gain out of taking apart Libya? What did we gain going after Syria? What did we gain help to knock off Mubarak?
Well, you know what will gain if we knock off Assad? It will stop. You know who his big funders are? It's Iran. Iran wants to own Syria.
Yeah.
Who else? The Russians, who are also aligned with Iran. Having the rebels take Assad out will be a good thing for the world, and the Saudis are willing to get in the middle and settle it down. How about the Saudis coming out today and saying they've got a coalition of 35 or 40 people to go destroy ISIS?
We'll see.
That's pretty impressive.
We'll see.
But we have to lead.
I know. I think we made a mistake in going into these countries, but thank you, because you have a different position. And you expressed it tonight rather well, including right here. Thank you, Governor John Kasich, who remembers Tip O'Neill.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to hear from Donald Trump.